Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Robin Dellinger. I'm one of the executive directors for elementary school, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending our Facebook Live today and for sending questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. First, I'd like to introduce my partner, Dr. Marion Cummings, the executive director of elementary schools, and also Mr. Robert Navarro. He is the principal of Highlands Elementary School, and he also was the elementary principal on our reopening task force. Before we start answering specific questions, I did want to let everyone know that if you haven't had an opportunity, you might find many answers in the reopening plan that was adopted by the school board on July 14th and is posted on our SCPS website. Also yesterday, we also published some frequently asked questions that may answer some of your questions. And you can also find those on the SCPS website. We have been asked many of the same questions, and so I'm going to try to answer a couple of them now before we get started. The first, many parents have phoned us asking when are they going to hear from their school about their option. You can expect to begin hearing from your school probably next week, early next week. The registration survey does not close until noon on Friday, and so principals and their teams will be working on starting to make scheduling decisions and contacting people to talk about what coursework you might be looking at if you're doing the hybrid model or Seminole Connect. So next week will be the time to hear from them. If you don't hear from them, please contact the school. Also, if you're new to the district, the first thing you'll need to do is register for Seminole County Public School and contact the school, and they will guide you through this process. Also, if you need to make a change, if you made one decision but you need to make a change for whatever reason, if you would please contact your school and they can make that change for you. And remembering that changes, once we have our schedules in place, will be dependent based upon space and course availability. Also, just to let you know that each one of our elementary school principals will be designing their own reopening plan that's specific to their school, taking in consideration their staff, their students, and their facilities, and many other factors. Every school is unique. Also, every school has many things in common. You should be seeing messages coming out from your principals. I've seen many on Facebook, through school messenger. Some principals have even done Facebook Live sessions of their own or WebEx meetings with various groups and inviting parents to attend. So be on the lookout for those communications from your principal, and feel free to email or call your principal. They get a lot of calls and emails, but they will get back to you. Also, another resource, we will have a Facebook Live conducted in Spanish tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mrs. Cardona and her department will moderate that Facebook Live. Also, one thing to let you know is that every year we provide our elementary school students with a planner free of charge. We have received those planners, and we will be distributing them to schools. And if your child selects the Seminole Connect option or the SCVS option, we will be making arrangements with your principals to have a distribution schedule where you can pick up those planners at your school. Mr. Lawrence?
All right, thank you very much. Our first question is going to be for Mr. Navarro. If a student is in Seminole Connect, are they required to sit in front of a computer screen for 7 hours a day, minus a lunch break, like a typical school day?
Before I answer that question, I do want to give a shout out to all the Highlands Huskies that may be watching this. We have had a ton of questions about Seminole Connect. So I think the easiest way to describe what Seminole Connect is, it's an improved or beefed up version of what we did in the fourth quarter of last school year. So what does that mean? What does it look like? And what would a schedule potentially look like for a student? So the first piece, the idea that a student needs to sit in front of the computer for 6.5 hours. The answer to that is no. When you look at a normal face-to-face school day, there are many opportunities that students have breaks, such as lunch and recess and specials and independent working time that our students that are working through Seminole Connect will also be afforded. So a day in the life of a student in Seminole Connect. The first thing, parents, I'm going to tell you, you're going to need to set a wake-up time for those students. A routine is going to be key. Once you've gotten them out of bed, you're going to need to make sure that they get fed, they get dressed. Important that they still brush their teeth, because when you get them back to us, we're going to want to make sure that they're well-groomed and ready to go. And then you're going to log into your Google Classroom. And at that time, your teacher is going to take attendance, and then they're going to start their lessons virtually. Just like what our students are getting in the face-to-face classes, our Seminole Connect students will be getting it virtually. So there'll be opportunities where the teacher will ask the students to log off and work remotely. There'll be also other opportunities to where the teacher will ask them to come back in and to work in small group, or to come back to whole group and listen. And those students will have opportunities to ask questions of their Seminole Connect teacher. Now, one of the components that has also been brought up is, will the students have an opportunity to interact with other students that are on campus face-to-face? The way we are looking to design our Seminole Connect is to assign those students to one teacher so that all of our Seminole Connect students are together where possible. So they will interact together as a class, and then as we come back to face-to-face, they will join that class where possible and just pick right up where they left off. One of the other issues that has been brought up is, does this affect class size? Your students taking us on the option of Seminole Connect provides our schools with less students total. It does not address class size in an individual room, but it decreases the number of students on campus.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next question is for Dr. Cummings. Are elementary students required to wear masks at all times?
Yes, all students will be required to wear masks on the bus, in the hallways during transition time, anytime they're transitioning from one area to the next. If they're working in small group one-on-one, if they're working with their peers, or working in close proximity with the teacher. Students will not be required to wear a mask, of course, when they're having lunch. They will not be required to wear a mask at PE or recess.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And the next question is, will schools have disposable masks available for students if they forget or lose theirs?
Yes, there will be disposable masks available for students in the event that they lose theirs. Again, parents are asked to supply masks to their students every day, but in the instance where a kid forgets, there will be disposables available.
Thank you so much. And I do want to clarify one thing. Our Spanish Facebook Live will actually be on Thursday, not tomorrow at 10. So Thursday at 10 a.m.
Oh,
will be the
sorry,
Spanish
Mr.
version,
Lawrence.
so just to clarify. Our next question also, again, will be for Dr. Cummings. If a student needs a computer for the at-home options, how will that work?
Parents will need to contact the school administration to make that request. Principals will address each of those individually. Appointments will be made for pickup and distribution to parents, and those computers will be available until they have been given out to those kids in need. Again, you will need to contact the school administration to schedule an appointment for pickup and to make your needs known to your particular school.
And if a student selects hybrid, and we've gotten this question quite a bit, how is it determined what classes they take in each format? Is it at the student's discretion? What does a typical hybrid schedule look like for elementary students?
Well, hybrid schedules are created in collaboration with the parent and the school. And I do need to remind parents, if you're selecting the hybrid, it only works in collaboration with the Seminole County Virtual School. So basically, the child would be on campus for a portion of the day, every day. So it could be they come for the morning block or they come for the afternoon block. Now, when they come and the courses they select will be driven by the school's master schedule. And the master schedule is developed to meet the needs of those students that are face-to-face. So if a parent elects to have their kid come to face-to-face for ELA, that block happens to be in the morning. Students can use Seminole County Transportation to arrive at school, and then parents will need to arrange for pickup after their block. Students cannot remain on campus if they're participating in the hybrid program and not sitting in a face-to-face section. So again, it's only in collaboration with Seminole County Virtual School, and those schedules are determined by the school and the parent.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings. I do want to also clarify for the audience that a lot of the questions that we're reading are coming from our reopening email, where we requested parents to send in their questions in advance so we can compile them and answer and respond to the most common questions, because we have a limited time available today to answer as many questions as we can. So we're going to answer as many of those as we possibly can, and then at the tail end, if we have more time, we'll try to respond to several of the ones coming in through the chat on the Facebook posts as well. We'll do our very best to answer any other ones that we haven't already responded to, and at the very end, at the conclusion of our Facebook Live session, we will send out the link to all our elementary families so that they can watch a recap and hopefully see the responses to a lot of these questions, as well as, again, the FAQ that we sent out last evening. Again, the next question is also for Dr. Cummings. Will those selecting Seminole Connect still need to pick up any books or learning materials from their school?
Yes, parents, if there are materials that students need, books, workbooks, to go along with the instructional program for the Seminole Connect students, the school will notify you via our call-out system, school messenger, or email, and arrange a time for you to pick those materials up for your students. Also, there was some information regarding those materials in the way of school supplies. There is a school supply list available for face-to-face, and some of those supplies, I'm sure if your child is doing Seminole Connect or Seminole Virtual School, you probably have in your home. So we're going to leave that to the parents' discretion in regards to what they need to purchase and have at home for their students. Some of those school supplies are basic, pencils and pens and markers and crayons. So those things, parents, you will need to decide if you need those for your children. When they return to school, however, they will need to have their own supply of materials in the way of school supplies for their use.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings. And I do want to clarify also for the audience chiming in on Facebook Live, if you haven't received our school district emails, if you're not receiving those, it's very important that you check with your school and check with the information that you've listed in Skyward. Our Skyward database is what drives our emails and phone calls that you receive. So basically, we need you to make sure that those email addresses that you've listed in Skyward for both parents or for your various family members and guardians are correct, because those email addresses in Skyward are what we utilize for your phone calls and your emails to go. So make sure your phone number is correct. If you need your cell phone in there, make sure that's listed. Whichever email that you receive that you get your emails from, make sure that's correct and listed correctly, because that's what we use. If you check your Skyward and your email and your phone number are correct and you're still not receiving phone calls and emails from the district, please get with your school or call our information hotline and help desk, and they can walk you through that and kind of check to see if there's any troubleshooting issues that we may need to take care of. But very important that that information is correct, because that's how you'll receive our emails and phone calls. In addition, obviously, if you're on Facebook, you're following us on Facebook, we put all our information also on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, and then also on our website, www.scps.us. So look up at the photo slider. The most important information will always be there, and we'll have various pages where all the information for you will be listed. So just want to clarify that for those who might not be getting some of the emails. Next question is for Dr. Dillinger. If my children or child currently attends a charter or private school, but we wish to enroll them in the SCPS student educational options for this school year, how do I do so? What's the process for that?
So this really is a two-part question. The first applies to schools, children that are enrolled in charter schools. You are public school students, so the parent would simply need to withdraw their child from the current school, complete the location form, and then enroll in their new school. At that time, they would be given the opportunity to select the option that they wish to select. If you are currently a private school student, then you'll need to enroll in Seminole County Public Schools, and you can complete that process online by going to our webpage and going to elementary education and completing the registration process, at which time you'll have an ID number, and you can then complete the form, or probably the paper form at the school for the various options that are available to a Seminole County Public School student.
Now, Dr. Dillinger, a quick follow-up on that. Obviously, we have a deadline for Friday, July 24th at noon for families to make those decisions. However, if you're from a private school or a charter school or even new to the district and you're trying to enroll, do you have to scramble to get them enrolled before that date to make your selection, or do you have a little more time?
Well, we're asking all of our currently enrolled families to complete that by July 24th, excuse me. However, we get new students every day, and so the main thing to do is to enroll in your school and then take the process from there. We're going to make every effort to accommodate your choice, and the school will work with you, just keeping in mind that once we have schedules built, you know, things will depend somewhat on space and course availability. But our goal is to do whatever we can to meet the choice options that you may select. But we do have an ongoing enrollment process that naturally occurs, and we will accommodate that as best we can.
Thank you. Next question is for Dr. Cummings. It's kind of a two-part question, really a combined question. How do extracurriculars work for those choosing the at-home options, whether that be Seminole County Virtual School, whether it's Seminole Connect or hybrid? And can those students still participate in things like cross-country, for example?
Yes, students attending Seminole Connect or hybrid or Seminole County Virtual School can still participate in those opportunities. I would suggest that they contact their school regarding any of those extracurricular activities and when they will be offered. I would recommend they do that several weeks after school has started, as principals will be working on their master schedules. But yes, they can participate in those activities.
Thank you. And also for Dr. Cummings, is VPK face-to-face only? We've been getting that question quite a bit.
Yes, VPK is face-to-face only. I also need to clarify for parents that several questions have come in about VPK and pre-K ESE. Pre-K ESE and VPK are different. So when we're talking about VPK, it is only face-to-face. It is a voluntary program. So it cannot be offered at this time virtually based on rules and regulations that we have to follow in the statute.
Thank you. Also, another important question we've been getting a lot, how will Kids Zone and Beyond, which is our extended day program, work in regards to social distancing and keeping kids safe?
Students that participate in Kids Zone and Beyond will be expected to follow the same health and safety guidelines as they follow through the course of the day at their school. We will practice social distancing. Students will be required to wear their mask when they're working together with their peers. Generally, they interact with games, different activities, so they will be required to wear their mask during those times when they cannot be socially distant. When they are outside having recess, playtime, they will not be required to wear their mask. And if they're working inside and they are socially distant, working independently on their artwork or special projects, they will not be required to wear their mask.
Thank you. And I'll just add, our registration process for Kids Zone and Beyond, as well as K-Zone, our middle school program, is currently underway and open. If you want more information for that, again, go to our website, www.seps.us. Look at the top of the web page and our photo slider. It's about the fourth one in, and you can get all the information you need on our extended day programs. Our next question, again, for Dr. Cummings. If my child begins the year face-to-face, but things worsen, will they be able to switch to Seminole Connect, and when would that occur?
Students will only be able to switch to Seminole Connect at the end of the 9 weeks or at the end of the semester. And so I would encourage parents to think carefully about their choices. within that first week of school, if there's some concerns, if there's space availability, then they can work with their school. But after that, it will only be permissible at the end of the 9 weeks or at the end of the semester.
Perfect, thank you. And we do want to share with all our families as well that obviously if the situation got crazy like it did at the end of the last school year and things really escalated, there could always be the possibility, it's always in the realm of possibility that we have to do everyone back to some version of Seminole Connect or remote learning. So that's always on the table. That's not necessarily off the table, but we don't have a crystal ball right now. We don't know exactly how things will pan out, but we're prepared to do so either way. So that might answer some of your questions out there in terms of what would go on depending on how far it escalates. Again, we would follow similar protocols of how we did towards the end of last school year and operate in the same manner and adjust accordingly. Next question again for Dr. Cummings. If a teacher or a child at my student's school tests positive for COVID-19, how will parents get notified?
We will be working in collaboration with our Health Services Department as well as the Department of Health. All of the situations will be addressed on a case-by-case basis, and in collaboration with the Department of Health, determinations and decisions will be made with how to proceed with that particular situation.
Thank you. Next question is for Mr. Navarro. Will there be social distancing in the cafeterias during lunchtime? Or restaurants, for my Red Apple Dining friends, our campus restaurants?
Now call it Red Apple Dining. So each school is a little bit unique in terms of how our cafeterias are designed. Every one of my peers, every administrator right now is really working through their cafeterias and other areas on campus where they can provide as much social distancing as possible. To say that it will be 6 feet in all areas, that may not be possible. But I can use Highlands as an example because we just worked on it this morning. We have changed our lunch schedule to where only one grade level comes into the cafeteria at one time, and those students will be separated on tables and all facing in one direction so that we can minimize the risks that the students have while they are eating their lunch.
Thank you. Next question is for Dr. Dillinger. What adjustments are being made for kids with learning disabilities in regards to specialized teacher assignments, schedule of virtual versus face-to-face, et cetera? And then again, kind of how are we treating Seminole Connect option to work with students with IEPs?
So I think it's really important to remember that the IEP drives the supports that a student receives. So whatever accommodations and services are documented in the IEP are going to be provided regardless of the option that a student receives. For a Seminole Connect student, the teachers in the school will provide the supports and services for the student as they would if they were at the school, only it will more than likely be remotely. They may set up their own Google Classroom. They may have a particular time during the day when they meet with that student to provide support. It depends on the services, but all of those services will be provided as indicated in the student's IEP. We will be scheduling many meetings and conversations with parents between now and the time when school begins to make sure that a plan is in place to meet the students' needs as outlined, because we want to be able to begin supporting the students the very second they get back to school.
Perfect. And Dr. Dillinger, for students in the dual language program that we have at several of our elementary schools, will students be moving classes, or will the teachers move to the classroom? And is dual language happening for Seminole Connect or Seminole County Virtual School as well?
So if your student is in the dual language program at one of our dual language schools, then those services will be provided through Seminole Connect, should you choose that option. It may be that the teachers will move from room to room in order to minimize the transitions for students. It will depend on the school and their individual scheduling plan. Dual language is not available in Seminole County Virtual School. So if you are a dual language student and you wish to stay home, probably the best option for your student is to continue with Seminole Connect.
Thank you. And how are gifted services being handled in the options we currently have available?
In all of the options available, Students will be provided with their gifted services by gifted endorsed teachers. There will be differentiation within the curriculum, but then also enrichment and extension activities provided by for Seminole Connect and Seminole County Virtual School, either the home school teacher or a teacher assigned to work with those students who are gifted.
Thank you. Another common question we keep seeing quite a bit for our elementary schools are our elementary schools still planning to provide a Meet the Teacher event for those selecting face-to-face, hybrid, and Seminole Connect? And this question goes to Mr. Navarro.
The answer is yes for some groups. So our VPK students, our kindergarten students, as well as our new students to all of our campuses will be provided that opportunity in small groups to come on campus to get adjusted to their new surroundings. Each school will be reaching out to those families to let them know the dates and times that those will happen.
Thank you, sir. Next question is very important to our Red Apple Dining folks. This is for Dr. Cummings. If Seminole County Virtual School or Seminole Connect are chosen, do I need to still fill out a free and reduced lunch application in case they return to face-to-face later or just in general? And are we planning to do free meals available during the school year for our at-home learning option families?
Yes, it is recommended that you go ahead and complete your free and reduced lunch application so that when you return face-to-face for the 9 weeks, after the first 9 weeks or at the end of the semester, there's no wait time, but your student can be served immediately. Also, for students that have applied and qualified for free and reduced lunch, there will be Seminole County Public School designated areas for pickup for free lunch and also for reduced price lunches. Those students receiving reduced price lunches will have to pay their reduced price for lunches, but those distribution sites will be scheduled. There is not currently locations and times set up, but Red Apple Dining will be taking care of that, and I'm sure you'll see it sent out to all of our parents so that you know where those designated areas are for pickup for those free and reduced lunch students.
Perfect, thank you. And just to add, yesterday, for those of you that do receive our district emails, you should have received an email yesterday about the application for free and reduced lunches. That went live yesterday, so you can begin filling those applications out and getting those in. We'll send some reminders in the coming days, again, for you to do so, and find that information on our Red Apple Dining website as well. Our next question is also for Dr. Cummings. If I choose Seminole Connect or SCVS, will my child have the ability to ask questions online during class if they don't understand something? In other words, and also will they be able to participate and interact with classmates any?
So for Seminole County Virtual School, students will only interact with their teacher. So there's no student interaction with Seminole County Virtual School, very different from Seminole Connect. In Seminole Connect, they will work with the teacher, and they will also often work with another peer in the class at an appropriate time. So I think that for Seminole County Virtual School, parents need to understand that that's not a class group. That is generally teacher-to-student interaction.
Thank you. That concludes the majority of the questions that we received in advance. We'll now kind of go over some of the questions we're starting to see in post. One of the big ones is just really a clarification between Seminole County Virtual and Seminole Connect in terms of they're both at-home learning options, but what is the difference if they choose the Save the Seat model in Seminole County Virtual School of when they could return to face-to-face, provided things are looking better and they want their child to go back to their zone school? What are the differences in terms of those on-ramps and off-ramps versus Seminole County Virtual and Seminole Connect?
All right. Okay. So you have two distinct different paths. So with Seminole County Virtual School, with the Save My Seat, at the semester, the student can go back to their zone school. With our Seminole Connect option, if a parent wishes at the end of the first 9 weeks to go back to their classroom at the school, then they can do it at that time or at the end of the second 9 weeks. There may be some opportunities in between times for that if everything is the numbers for class size are in line. And our goal with Seminole Connect is to have a smooth transition between the Seminole Connect at home learning and then coming back face-to-face. And also with our Seminole County Virtual School students, so that should they come back the second semester, they'll have a seat in the school and they'll be able to pick up with their fellow students in whatever courses they're enrolled in.
Thank you. Another common question that we're receiving, and Dr. Cummings, I'll let you field this. If they choose Seminole Connect, are they utilizing teachers from their school, or are those just teachers from other schools pooling together to share those classes?
In Seminole Connect, they'll be using teachers from their school. The goal is for those students to work with a teacher from their school so that if and when they choose to come back at the end of the 9 weeks or at the end of the semester, then they would be assigned to that teacher. As Mr. Navarro shared, class size will be adhered to, so those students then will have a direct connect back to that teacher when possible.
Thank you. In addition, the difference for Seminole County Virtual School, and Robin, if you'd like to answer this one, in terms of doing classes at their own pace, how does that work? So really, in the Seminole County Virtual School model, there's a little bit of difference between Seminole Connect in terms of that they can watch and go through their curriculum really at any time. Can you kind of clarify that?
Seminole County Virtual School curriculum is designed to be at your own pace, at your own time, at your own pace. And so unlike Seminole Connect, which is tied very much to the classroom at the school and the school day, a student enrolled in Seminole County Virtual School can do that work anytime during the day. And the teachers are available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. if they need teacher help. So it's more flexible in terms of the hours in the day. So for example, if your student isn't going to get much support from you because you're at work, but you get home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, then you could start working in the afternoon. With a Seminole Connect student, class starts at 8:30 in the morning and might be done by 2 o'clock. So it's a little bit of a different commitment in terms of when you are in class, so to speak.
Thank you. And I want to clarify for our audience watching on Facebook and YouTube as well that the questions we've been going through mostly today were the ones that were submitted in advance when we sent out our email. We are going to respond to the questions that are in the feed when we're at the conclusion of our session. We'll try to go through as many of those as possible. If it's something that's in our FAQ that we sent out last evening and it's on our webpage, we'll provide you that link so you can find the answers to those questions because there's a lot of that information already included in our FAQ if you haven't gone through that. We realize that a lot of folks are jumping in and off and may not have seen some of the responses to some of the questions that we've already had. And so at the conclusion of this session, we will also email blast the link from this session today to all our elementary families so you can go through that at your own pace and see the responses that we've gone through today if you happen to miss some of it as well. My next question, as we're seeing some of these questions come in, is for Mr. Navarro, and it really relates to some confusion at the school level in terms of Seminole Connect. Will teachers teaching Seminole Connect from the school, for example, Highlands, be teaching with a webcam Seminole Connect classes as well to face-to-face in the same grouping, or those teachers, some who are teaching face-to-face will have a face-to-face class, and those that are doing Seminole Connect will have a Seminole Connect virtual class? I know you kind of briefly touched on it at the beginning, but if you could kind of reiterate that.
Thank you. So the ideal situation for any of our schools is that we have enough students that we can assign them to one teacher for Seminole Connect, and they would work solely with that classroom teacher. If our numbers don't come out that way, it is possible that you could have a class on campus that has a combination of both. So it's really going to be dependent on numbers, but our goal would be to take our Seminole Connect students, assign them to one teacher, and they work throughout the 9 weeks until the families are ready to come back face-to-face, and where possible, they'd be assigned back to that teacher for brick and mortar.
Thank you, sir. And also to clarify for the audience, some of the questions coming in were, if I do need to loan a computer, what are the requirements to do so? And EDs, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we'll follow the same protocol as the end of last school year. It'll be first come, first serve with our free and reduced lunch population. First, if they don't have a computer at home, we'll distribute those that we have. And then when we get past that, if there's others that may need a computer, we'll follow that process based off what we have left over. In addition, it will, at the beginning, be one per household. But obviously, some households have multiple students, and if they're on Seminole Connect and they all have to be on different classes, we'll work through that. So we want our families to know that you'll work with your school through that, and through our information services department, we'll likely have other distributions that we'll promote and share as we get a little bit closer to the school year, once we have all those details ironed out. But the process will be very similar to how we did it at the end of last school year, if you're familiar with that. Another question that we keep kind of getting quite frequently has to do with really how we're doing the school year in terms of, again, if you guys could reiterate, basically how we're monitoring going back to those various on-ramps of Seminole Connect versus Seminole Virtual. I know you touched on it already, but if you could hit on it one more time. The difference between Seminole Connect and Seminole Virtual are to return to your zone school, or what?
The differences are, if you enroll in Seminole County Virtual School, that you are committing to a semester, and that if you want to come back to your zone school, you would do that at the start of the second semester. So you're committing to a semester if you are committing to that Seminole County Virtual option. With Seminole Connect, the commitment is for 9 weeks. So at the end of a marking period, at the end of the first marking period, if things are going great and you feel comfortable having your child come back to school, then your child would come back to their zone school, and our plan is with the teacher that they had with Seminole Connect. So if that's at all possible, that's the way we would like for it to work. If you're not comfortable at the end of that first quarter, then maybe you will be when we come back to school in January. We'll see where things are at that time. You know, we don't know, like Mr. Lawrence said earlier, we don't have a crystal ball, so we can't tell you about what will be happening in 2021, but our plan is that any student in Seminole Connect can come back at the end of the 9 weeks or at the end of the second 9 weeks. And obviously, there are also sometimes some unique situations where a parent may need to have a special consideration. They need to meet with the principal, and the principal can make determinations based upon space and course availability and those kinds of things. But our plan is that by 9 weeks, we make those decisions about where our child will be.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Navarro. What is homework going to look like this upcoming school year for those who are on Seminole Connect?
It's going to be a ton. You're going to get so much homework. No. I think that our schools are really taking a look at what additional things that we need to provide our students past the normal 6.5 hours school day. We don't want to overload our families and push them into potential additional crisis because of homework. So school to school is really taking a look at that and saying, where can we minimize things to make it a little bit easier for our families at home?
Thank you, sir. And then there's some questions also about how we're doing iReady for this school year. I'm assuming also for the Seminole Connect families as well. Could either one of you respond to that?
Yes, the recommendation for iReady is 30 minutes per day, 30 minutes per week, 30 minutes of reading, and 30 minutes of math per week. That is generally designated in each teacher's schedule. So students will have a scheduled time to complete their iReady minutes. I think with students that are in Seminole Connect, there will be some flexibility in when they do that. But every student will be expected to complete their minutes weekly, and teachers will continue to monitor that. I think also for those students, as I shared earlier, in the hybrid situation, because you're only on-site face-to-face for a portion of the day, the other portion of your day is to complete your Seminole County virtual schoolwork, which of course you have the flexibility to complete that anytime throughout the day. The same would happen if you're not in the iReady block for reading. Then you probably are completing those iReady minutes outside of that school day. And the same if your block on-site face-to-face is mathematics and you're home doing virtual for your ELA block, then you would have some flexibility with completing those minutes. But again, for all students in elementary, the expectation is 30 minutes per week in both reading and math.
Thank you. And another question that we've been receiving a lot is really for our new families, those kindergarten families who are new to Seminole County Public Schools, new to the district, new to the school thing in a very challenging time right now, so a little bit different. What is kindergarten really going to kind of look like, both face-to-face, but also for those Seminole Connect students, really?
Have you ever been in a kindergarten class?
I have.
That's what it's going to look like. Well, for Seminole Connect students, basically they're going to log on, as Dr. Dillinger said, when the school day starts. So if your school starts at 8:30 in the morning, kids are going to be logged on, and teacher will open up with whatever the activity is going to be for that day, and then they will follow the master schedule. The good thing about kindergarten is you generally have more breaks throughout the course of the day. There is time for kids to be really creative with their writing, their reading, and so there's a little more flexibility, and we know that kindergarten students can't sit for long periods of time, so the lesson is designed to give them breaks and opportunities to move around. The difference is they'll be moving around in their homes and in their own school space versus in that classroom. So all of those things will be taken into consideration. However, I do want parents to know the expectation is that they are participating in class and they are engaged in the instruction so that they have an opportunity to master those skills at the end of kindergarten.
So another question, this could, any of you can field this, but it has to do with testing. Obviously, the Florida Standards Assessment, if that's happening this year or not, if we have any information on that, and then also just testing in general, particularly when it comes to those on the Seminole Connect model. Are they just doing their tests online, or parents assisting them with that? How is that going to work?
So as of today, FSA is still on for 2021, so all students will be participating. Those students grades 3 through 5 will be participating in FSA. As far as district assessments, we are working to develop those in an online platform as well as the face-to-face platform. The iReady diagnostic, there's still discussion with iReady and our Assessment and Accountability Department, so more information will be coming out regarding iReady as well as Flickers, which is the assessment that all kindergartners take within the first 30 days of school. So we'll have more information coming out on that, but you know, when there's a possibility to do online platform testing, we are certainly going to explore that for our families.
Thank you. And a lot of questions are rolling in about temperature checks and things like that. And I know we're not doing temperature checks for all that, but we do have a protocol in place if a student is feeling ill or has a temperature at school to isolate and send them home accordingly. But we do want to reiterate to our families that if your child's sick or does have a temperature, to keep them home. We want you to use your logic on that and keep them home, keep everybody safe. But I do want to ask the question to our panel. If a child, so to speak, does test positive for COVID-19 and families get a letter from the health department, and students who may have had contact need to self-quarantine, how are they switching to Seminole Connect at that point to do their curriculum, or are they going to be sent home assignments like they would normally if they were sick for a couple days or a week? How is that going to work?
Well, if a student is sent home for a couple of days for whatever reason, for illness, more than likely they'll simply work with their teacher to complete assignments. If they're well enough to work on iReady at home or to do other assignments in the regular class, then that's what we'll do for short-term illnesses. We'll just follow our regular procedures.
Thank you. And this next question for for Mr. Navarro, rather. The block scheduling, we know that all schools are a little bit different and their campuses are different. Their curriculum's a little bit different. Can you kind of explain for families why that's not the same for all schools and why some schools can do things a certain way and others might have to do them a little bit different?
So when you're looking at the different elementary schools, our size is vast, are pretty vast. So if we look at Bear Lake Elementary, they have over 1,000 students, where Highlands, we top out at about 610 students. So the flexibility that I have to maneuver with my students is a little bit more great. So it really plays a factor in from school to school, the number of teachers at a grade level that we have, and really what's best for the students at that school.
Thank you. And Dr. Dillinger, can you reiterate, I know families have a lot of decisions to make before Friday the 24th at noon, but can you reiterate the importance of why we need families to make those selections by that deadline in terms of how it really assists us with scheduling those teachers where they need to go and figuring out that plan so schools can get ready for the new school year, and then even in terms of us figuring out our bus routes and how many drivers we need and et cetera.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. It's really important that parents make their decision by the 24th because it's very complex what we're asking students, what we're asking schools to do at this point in time. So remember, we are working on hybrid schedules. We are working with class size and other statutory requirements. In addition, we have to get the names to transportation as to which students need to be picked up. And those schedules take a while to develop. So the more time that schools have to get those things done, the better that it will be. But also it's very important because of our teachers, so that we have to make sure that we have classes established for our teachers so that teachers know who their students will be, so they can be in touch with their students and their families, and also to meet, again, class size. So because of the different options that we're putting into place, teachers have various different jobs that they are responsible for doing, and to schedule all of those things with all of the many thousands of students takes some time. So the sooner that we have your choice, the better it will be in terms of making the right decisions and the right placements in terms of teachers and classes and that kind of thing. Also, teachers will be preparing, and the preparation is best done when you know what you're preparing for. So we want to provide them as much opportunity to do that as possible. We do know that there will be instances where a change is made or a late registration comes in, and we'll do our best to accommodate those things. But it's best to have your requests and your decision in as soon as possible so that all of those things are taken into consideration as the whole schedule is put together. So that's why it's really important to make your decision so that we can begin moving forward with very deliberate planning that uses our resources to the best that they can be used.
Another very important question, and this one will go to Dr. Cummings. Obviously, we already did our kindergarten roundup like we do every year, but kindergarten registration is very, very important, and we understand that a lot of our families were waiting to see what our reopening plan looked like and what our student enrollment options were going to be before making that selection or getting their kids registered or enrolled in kindergarten. Can you explain to our families in the audience, if they have little ones going into kindergarten that haven't registered yet, or they have neighbors who have kindergartners that need to register, the importance of doing that sooner rather than later, and how that ties into everything?
Yes, so if you have not registered your child and you have an incoming kindergartner, we encourage you to go online and click on Enroll My Kindergarten Student and start that process as soon as possible. By doing that and making your selection, it helps us to better prepare for your child. to make sure that we have teachers at all of our schools to appropriately serve our students, be it Seminole Connect or face-to-face. So the sooner you can do that, the better. Also, if you have neighbors or friends who haven't registered, please ask them to go online and register. If you need support or assistance with that, please reach out to your school, and they will help you. We do have computers in the lobbies, and they're more than happy to help you through that registration process and process any of the paperwork that you might need to get your child registered. But it's very important that you get them registered for school, regardless of the model that you are selecting for the 2021 school year.
And Dr. Cummings, we've gotten a lot of questions regarding the cleaning protocols that schools will have implemented. I know we've outlined that in our reopening plan that is on our website and that we sent out to families, but just a quick, brief, description of kind of the cleaning types of cleaning things that'll go on our elementary school campuses, as well as I know there's some questions out there about will we have some dust shields and things like that. And again, all schools are a little bit different with the way their classrooms are set up. But can you kind of explain a little bit about what's going to go on for this fall?
Yes. In the elementary schools, teachers will have a select number of desk shields to use when they're working in close proximity with students, or if they have students work in close proximities with each other, really as just kind of that extra safety. A lot of times we pull kids face-to-face for small group, and so those will be provided to each school on a small scale. Also, the facilities department has worked on some new procedures for disinfecting schools and cleaning after kids transition. You know, we always have disinfected tables and wipe them down after each lunch period, but of course they will double down on that this year. And then also at the end of the day, touch points will be disinfected not only at the end of the day, but throughout the day in our high traffic areas. And again, we're encouraging all students to make sure that they're wearing their mask when they're transitioning and moving from area to area for safety reasons.
Thank you so much. We're working towards the end of today's session, so I'm going to start wrapping it up. But I want everyone in our audience that's viewing, whether you're viewing on Facebook or YouTube, to know that, again, at the end of the session, if you came in late or you missed one of our questions, we're going to send this out to all our elementary families through our school messenger email. So you'll receive the link from today's session, so you can go back through at your own pace and at your own leisure and replay today's session so you can get answers to some of the questions that you have. We also, again, want to remind families that on our website, in the very first position of our photo slider at the top of the page, if you click on that button, we have a section where we've listed all kinds of school reopening information, as well as an FAQ, which we also emailed out last night, which will answer a lot of these questions that we've been seeing coming through the post. And then also we ask that we will try to respond to as many questions as we can that are on this Facebook feed. Again, reminding folks that we requested some questions in advance so that we can gather the most common ones, but we will try to go through the ones that were listed today and try to respond as best we can. Please be patient with us because that obviously will take some time for us to do. Some of you are also sending questions via our school reopening email. We've been getting a lot of emails through that as well, and we're distributing them appropriately so that we can get responses to all of you. But do know we are receiving those. You will receive responses, but please be patient with us. It will take time to respond to everyone. We've gotten a lot of emails to go through, and so we're working diligently with staff to get responses for everyone on that. We also ask our families, obviously this is a challenging time for all of us. Please be patient with us. We're changing and doing a lot of things in a very short period of time, in a short window. So there's some information that we're still working through that we don't have to share yet, but as soon as we do, we'll share that out with all our families as quick as possible. And we'll do that in the following manner. We'll put that on our website. We'll put that on our Facebook page, our Twitter page. If those of you that follow us on LinkedIn, we'll put information there. We'll always do email blasts. We'll do phone calls where appropriate. And we're always going to share that information with our local media so they can help push out that communication as well. So we just want to reiterate there's multiple ways for you to hopefully find that information, and we'll try to accommodate you as best as possible. I also want to remind everyone viewing today that if you have a middle schooler or a high schooler, we're going to do another Facebook Live session that will also be streamed on YouTube for middle schools tomorrow at 11 a.m., which will go until about noon. And then again, we'll do our high schools also tomorrow at 1 p.m. and go to about 2 p.m. with that. And that will again be on Facebook and then also streamed live on our YouTube. And as soon as those conclude, we'll email blast those out to families as well, so that you can go through them at your own leisure. In addition, on Thursday at 10 a.m., we will do a Spanish version. So for our Spanish-speaking audience, we'll kind of give you an overview in Spanish for our Thursday 10 a.m. Facebook Live session. We'll send information about that out to our Spanish-speaking families today, later on this afternoon. So with that, I'd like to conclude today's Facebook Live session. I'd like to thank Mr. Navarro from Highlands Elementary and our two executive directors of elementary, Dr. Cummings and Dr. Dillinger, for their time today. And we appreciate all your support and understanding as we work through this global pandemic. And again, we'll be able to answer as many questions as possible in the coming weeks. And we know those are some tough decisions for you. And we have a short time frame to do that. But we want to support our families as best as possible and share as many options as possible for our families so that you can make the best decision for you. Thank you and have a great day.